and you step back and say, does this make sense? And if you're unsure, even this much, go talk to somebody else. Use the resources that Josh has mentioned. Come to the credit union and talk to us. Because we've seen this happen, and we can help protect people by sharing the knowledge that we have. Gentlemen, anything you want to add?
Just with Facebook, one of the ways they get information, and I see it every day, people answering the questions, somebody will post, help do this, and there'll be a bunch of questions that you answer. You're giving personal information. These people can take that stuff, figure out your passwords, they can figure out your, a lot of information from just by answering these simple questions that a friend may have posted. Don't do it. It's just,
Right, many times the questions will be, what was your first car? Because they know people use their first car as a password. They'll ask questions to try to extract information that then they can start using to hack into your account. Josh?
One thing to keep in mind especially with like the grandparent, we call them grandparent scams, but the ones where they call saying that the child is in jail. If that happens, there's always a chance that your grandchild is in jail and they need some help. But what you should do in those situations is ask which jail they're at, and then hang up, look up the number yourself for that jail, and then call them. Or even better, call the grandkid. If you have their cell phone number, you call them first. But if you can't get a hold of them, look up the number for the jail or wherever they allegedly are and call that number. Don't ask for the number and then call that number with whoever you're talking with on the phone or anything like that. Hang up, Google it, check if it's a local number and you have a phone book, check the phone book, whatever it may be, look up the number yourself and then call that number. So call the Chautauqua County Jail if they're saying they're in Chautauqua County Jail. Don't just listen to what the voice on the phone is telling you.
And just to carry on a little bit from that, what Josh was saying, you can imagine every week I call someone and say, hey, this is Tom Barrelaire from the Secret Service. Well, people are like, yeah, okay. Trust me. I'm like, okay, when you get a chance, either Google it or look in the, find out what the number is to the local field office, call back, and it takes 15 minutes, say I was coming back. And the sheriff will probably roll onto this. I mean, I was a cop on the road for 20 years. We're at an accident scene, and you call a family member, say, can you come and pick them up? They're going to be at this tow truck, the tow facility. Feel free, any cop, at least in the agency I work with, and I'm sure the sheriff will say the same thing, will call. They may call from a block number because cops don't want their number out there, but you can always call the police station. Ask them, like Josh said, what agency are you with? What police agency are you with? Most people know their local police agency, will be able to look that up. Call in there, you'll talk to dispatch, say, hey, is one of your officers at a scene, my daughter's in an accident or something happened. Take the extra couple minutes, be suspicious, there's nothing wrong with that. It's very important that we have all this technology at our fingertips. Feel free to verify, and like I said, I get verified every week, and there's no problem, and it's not, we have so much pride. Don't feel like you're, stepping over a barrier of some sort. I want to get, I'm actually proud when they're like, hey, maybe I'm not convincing enough, but, people don't usually call you, or you don't have a lot of interaction with the police all the time. In fact, you shouldn't. I mean, unless, there's a tragedy of some sort, you want to know what's going on. But, Josh had a good point that verify it, and it's really easy for us to verify us.
If you do receive a phone call, there's no bank, there's no credit union that's going to say, give me your social security number over the phone. Give me your account number over the phone. Verify your birth date, right? We call our members. We call our members after they get a new product or service or annually as part of our service routine. We don't ask personal information, right? We might explain to you some of the wonderful things we've got going on and how we can save you some money, but we never ask for personal information. If you ever get a call and they're asking for that personal information, hang up. My mom's 88, and she feels so rude by hanging up the phone. She just, I don't want this call. I don't want this. No, please, don't call me anymore. I don't want this. She can't just hang it up. just hang it up.
Worst case scenario, they'll call you back. Yes. If you weren't supposed to hang up.
Yes. Texting scams. You can't make this up. So here we are announcing we're having this session about scams. And yesterday, that actually started Sunday evening, this credit union, along with another credit union, we were a victim of what we call an area code scam, where the bad guys have dialers that calls every single number in an area code, texts every number in an area code, whether it's a cell phone or not, they just send text out. And they'll put Southern Chautauqua on there, or Interlinks was the other credit, or HSBC, whatever. And they'll send you a text hoping that maybe that's the bank you bank with. And they'll tell you that your account is being shut down. Now, we were not breached, the other credit cards weren't breached. The bad guys really don't know who you bank with unless you tell them. You have to be very cautious with the information that you offer. If you ever get a text that says your account's going to be shut down, just call the credit union before you click on that text. Josh?
Another one that we actually saw in our work emails, just being relevant at this time and triggered the memory. Everybody in our office got an email allegedly from the voter registration office or something like that, saying that our voter registration had expired and we needed to click this link to get it fixed. We got that everybody in the office got it about a month ago. And it actually, at first glance, looked pretty legitimate. There weren't the usual typos and everything that you see with a lot of scams. But the fact that none of us have ever used our work email.
One of those stories where you're just wondering.
To register for, to vote was the first red flag, so why are they emailing that email for voting? But then if you're comfortable with technology, you can mouse over the hyperlink, the little blue link, and it'll show you where it's going to send you, what web page it's going to send you to, and it did not line up correctly as to what you would expect at all. I only recommend doing that if you're comfortable and you know how to do that, because you never want to accidentally click the link or anything like that. But if you are tech savvy, you can often just highlight over the hyperlink and it'll show you what website it's actually taking you to give you kind of an idea of whether this looks legitimate or not.
On the text scams, we do text our members if we see a debit card transaction outside of this area. So if all of a sudden we see 3 transactions from Florida and we didn't know you're on vacation, you will receive a text. But that text will give you the dollar amount of the transaction and just say, is this yours, yes or no? That's safe. That's the institution giving you enough information to be able to say, yep, that was my transaction. But if they ask you to click on a link and then give them information, that's when hang up the phone. Stop. Yes?
One of the text scams that's going around, and I get one a couple times a week. My wife orders a lot on Amazon. I get a text message saying that we can't deliver your package because of an inefficient address or something. And the one day I did click on it and I had to shut my phone off real quick because it was a scam. And it looked legitimate because the amount of packages my wife shops on the internet. So yeah, you could be fooled real easy. And luckily I shut my phone down and I made a couple phone calls and stuff. But yeah, I was without a debit card for a week. So.
Yeah, so traditional types of scams really that we're talking about now, call that credential harvesting. So what happens is you'll get an email or you'll get a text message saying, sign into your account because, we're trying to verify something. You'll click on it, you may put your credentials in, because believe it or not, people do that, and nothing happens. And they're like, okay, well, nothing happened, so maybe I'm okay. Well, what really is happening is we say harvesting, but there's actually databases that the bad guys are collecting, username and passwords, and then eventually they figure out, they may see you on another breach. They see the name, the username on another breach because they're involved in other scams, and then they link those together, and the next thing you know, you got something compromised, either a bank account or a credit card, or as Robert was saying, the big one is the postal one right now because, you know, that's, people aren't really going to stores. You know, if you want to get something, you get on Amazon or you get on whatever the .com store is, Target or Walmart. So just be cautious of those. That's the other part of the credential harvesting, and it's hard to say. You know, Josh mentioned that if you are savvy enough and you could hover over the URL or the actual address that you're at on the web page. There's also splash pages, so you'll get a splash page that pops up with, when you're signing on for your email for the first time, you'll see that. Those aren't always legitimate. They actually could be, if you're on a website that you've never been to before, because maybe you saw an advertisement over Instagram or Facebook. They're doing a lot of credential harvesting on that. And I actually have a whole separate presentation on that, but you know, we do it very similar to a crowd like yours, and we just want you to be aware of it. Odd web pages that you click on from Facebook, Instagram, you get a text message offering you a deal that may not be harvesting, but it'll take you to a website, and it looks like, oh wow, I saw those shoes, they're like half price on this website. Those websites are just advertising stuff that you're not going to get. You're going to put in your credit card information, and you'll never get that stuff.
If it's too good to be true.
It is.
It probably is.
I just got a quick, excuse me, a quick example of that just happened to me. My wife and I, our washer took a powder, clothes washer. So we went down to Lowe's and bought another one. It's being delivered. Well, a few days after that, I got a text. My name, my address, the whole 9 yards. We can't deliver this till you verify your address. I'm sorry, I didn't do anything, I didn't touch it, I deleted it as a matter of fact. They have my address, I'm in their system. Right? But somebody was trying to get something out of me, I just didn't let them.
And a lot of people would struggle deleting that text. I didn't wash the shit. The bottom line is, those will get a hold of you if they really needed that address. Don't be as trusting as all of you have been all of your lives because of what the bad guys are doing. Artificial intelligence. It's a very scary term, artificial intelligence. They can, with very little recording of your voice, they can replicate your voice. So how do we fight that? Well, the lady whose daughter was going to get married, she thought, all right, daughter, send me a photograph. Well, scammers think about those things. So they could have had a photograph, right? So if you're ever unsure if you're talking to your loved one, say to them, send me a photograph with 4 fingers in front of your face, because they won't have that photograph. Send me a photograph with you pulling on your ear, right? Give them a little task to do in the photo. That way, when they send that photo to you, you're going to feel more confident that it is the person who you're talking to. Make sense?
AI-generated photos now, and you could do this at home when you get a chance. You know, just Google this, AI-generated photographs. AI hasn't figured out teeth yet, so you'll look at somebody smiling and they'll have probably about 2 or 3 extra teeth, sometimes 4 extra teeth on the side. And actually, once you recognize it, you'll definitely understand. These computers are doing a really good job. The faces look nice, but they can't do certain things. The teeth are tough, noses, any type of extra action like hands or pulling on parts of your face when you bring your hand into the frame. So those are pretty important to think about.
Hands are another big one. A lot of times they'll have extra fingers, 5, 6, 7, 12 fingers on one hand, and that's another thing to keep an eye out for. Just anything that is a specific configuration, like your teeth are in a specific configuration. Those are the types of things that the AI typically has trouble with, having those types of things. So hands, feet, teeth, those types of things.
these are all things that are hard to think of in the heat of the moment. So always keep that in mind. If they're pressuring me over time, you have to do this quickly. You have to make this happen now. Buy this now. That's the first red flag to step back. Next video.
How could anyone do this? Unfortunately, it happens a lot. It's just not always in the news. Now, this is the house that we are talking about. The trouble started 2 years ago when the elderly couple needed a personal loan. Their grandson offered to help, and in the process, convinced them to hand over the deed to this house. That was the beginning of the end.
And I don't know where we're going to put these.
Verna and Hank Kowecki have to pack everything and move. They're being evicted from their home of 56 years in Thousand Oaks.
Every time you mention my house or my wife, it's rough.
Losing the house is incredibly painful for this couple in their 80s. But it's how they lost the house that hurts the most. They say they were scammed by their own grandson.
People in the neighborhood told me all about it, but I still couldn't believe it. Not from him, I couldn't.
And I don't know how a person can have a behavior like that.
Doug Emerson is one of the neighbors who broke the news to the elderly couple. He noticed that when Hank and Helen were out on Sundays with their grandson, realtors would be showing the house to potential buyers. Emerson did some digging and discovered the grandson the couple loved dearly was selling the house without their knowledge.
I asked him outright when he came by, I said, "Is my house for sale?" He says, "Oh, no, don't worry about it." But it was for sale.
Not only was the house for sale, all the equity was gone.
He took out $360,000. Then he took out another loan for $65,000 and took out another loan for $47,400.
When the couple confronted the grandson, they say he left and never came back.
I just feel lost.
To the extent I wanted to commit suicide at one time, because it's just too much.
I can't remember which one of the panelists mentioned the percentage of scams that are caused by family. Was that any of you guys?
Might have been me.
Might have been Walt.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's so scary that about 9 out of 10, 8 or 9 out of 10 scams, it's from somebody that you know, somebody within your family. And they oftentimes go unreported, and the elder folks don't want to do anything because you don't want to see your grandson go to jail, right? You don't want that. So they don't report it. But that's exactly what happens, and it's so sad.
So many times we have been called by an individual who said, well, my kids are making you call because they think I'm being scammed. I know I'm not. So then we'll look at it. And again, it fits the profile of a scam. So we would suggest that looks like a scam, you should break that off. Children are at a loss sometimes on how to help their parents through this because of stress relationships and whatnot. I'm not saying don't trust your own family, talk to your own family, but in addition to that, talk to your financial institution. Use the resources that we're going to put out there, okay? Sometimes family can make bad choices. Josh?
Just going off the video with the deed being transferred to the grandson and all that, a lot of times folks will want to transfer their house ahead of time to try to get around like the estate transfer, estate taxes and everything. That can be useful, but you want to talk to your financial institution or an attorney before you do that because there are alternatives. New York just introduced transfer on death deeds, which are which is a deed that you set up ahead of time that automatically transfers your house when you pass, rather than having to go through all of the process to go through surrogates court and estate and all that. So there are alternatives that can help protect your money, but also protect you from scams and all that. That you should talk with your bank, your credit union, or an attorney.
So specifically, this type of scam related to the real estate, I don't know if anybody here has a timeshare. There, timeshares are out there. We've been dealing with 2 of them recently with a local attorney, where just a attorney-client relationship, just a basically a family attorney, but it called me and said, hey, this person is a timeshare. They're trying to sell it online, and they go through all the paperwork and realize that the scam really is, the timeshare is not gone, and it's really just looking for a check for $15,000, $20,000, $25,000. But they go through the entire process. They rely on people that are just, they've had the timeshare a long time, so just pay attention to that. The other thing is, I think it was 60 Minutes, or there's definitely a program, a news program in the last year, did a big thing about these, the deeds. Like if you try to buy a house in North Carolina, you can close in like 30 days or less than that, different parts. I can tell you New York, and attorney sitting next to me will probably agree with this wholeheartedly, it's very, very hard to do a scam related to a deed, especially in New York. There's so many different lawyers involved in processes that have to happen. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but there's one thing about New York State is you're not going to wake up one day and your house is going to be sold. There's just too many things that go on and too many things that have to happen. To become a lawyer in New York, it's even more difficult because real estate's a very big part of law within New York State and making sure that we're keeping the residents safe. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but if you do move somewhere else and go to a different state, you go to Florida and North Carolina, it's definitely something to be cautious of. Or if you have family members down there that the next thing you know, it could be with less than 30 days in your house, you don't know anymore.
I think, Josh, you mentioned looking at the hyperlinks.
Yes.
So for our website, you can see that little, it's a lock. Reputable websites, their address will start with that. That's the secure. Other websites that aren't secure are definitely websites to stay away from. So while it is hard to really analyze every single address, that's your first step. Look for the lock.
John, could you read that? Because it's hard for us to see what you mean by that.
So
what John is saying is if you look at it, you see the lock, then it says HTTPS. The S is for secured. All right, if it just says HTTP : it is not a secured website. Is that what you're trying to say, John?
yes.
Okay.
That's good. A lot of folks didn't know that. It's good to know.
Let's see if we can get it a little bit larger.
There you go.
Yes. So you see the little lock and then the HTTPS. That's a secure website versus non-secure websites.
Another issue that comes up when you talk about families and the money that the families have, and I know, Tom, the Secret Service is involved a lot with this, is when you start looking at cryptocurrency. Or I know, for example, my father-in-law back in Albany keeps on thinking, geez, look at these commercials on television for gold. Maybe I should transfer it into gold. Can you guys comment on stuff like that? Because I tell my father-in-law, no. That's so scary. He's going to lose the money.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, when people do get scammed, there's, I'm sure Josh has seen this, where they've taken they convince them that, okay, you have to transfer this money into some type of cryptocurrency. So they'll go to the bank and they'll get a check for $5,000 or $10,000, or they'll get cash and they'll direct them to a crypto ATM. They'll deposit the money into there, and when it gets to and I don't want to get too, this is very complex, but, and I trace cryptocurrency and it's still complex for me. When the money goes to the blockchain or goes into cryptocurrency, it's gone. There are ways for us to trace it, but if it doesn't make it to a wallet, so basically it could be out on the internet and they call it a blockchain, and it's out there, it has value, but unless you were buying something else with Bitcoin, you're taking your Bitcoin and buying something else, and you're gonna do a transaction, the only way it's actually has monetary value for you personally is you take the money in the blockchain and you transfer to a wallet. And there's Coinbase, there's other types of cryptocurrency wallets. So believe it or not, that's actually how we catch the bad guy. We'll watch the money if somebody does transfer money onto the blockchain. And I'm not saying we do it every day, but we probably do it 2-3 times a month where money's on the blockchain and goes to a wallet. We have relationships with wallet companies where if it makes it to the wallet, because we'll have alerts on the blockchain, and we'll see it make it to the wallet, and then a lot of times these blockchain wallets or these Bitcoin wallet companies, they want to be legitimized. They think they're banks, they want to be legitimized. So they have a relationship with the Secret Service. I literally make a phone call and say, hey, just made it to your wallet, can you please freeze it? They'll freeze it for us. They'll freeze the money in there, and then we have to go through a long legal process through our, the Assistant U.S. Attorney or the U.S. Attorney's Office to try to freeze that money. But if anybody's asking you to transfer money to cryptocurrency or transfer money into gold, the Secret Service is in the investment business, but I can tell you, 99% of the times there's some type of scam. Unless you're a jeweler and known gold your whole life, you shouldn't be buying gold unless you're buying, you're actually going down to like the gold shop and you are buying bars that are produced by the U.S. government or whatever. There has to be something backing behind it. I just say stay away from it. Everyone here must have some type of financial planner or a financial person you trust. Stick to mutual funds, stick to your deferred comp and the different types of things that you know about.
Well, I think the key thing is the credit union. You could always trust the credit union when you have those situations. But I guess I have one last question on this. Are there these Bitcoin ATMs out here in Western New York?
Oh yeah. We've had people come. There's one in Erie, PA. Actually, if you can Google Bitcoin ATM, there might be a couple in Jamestown. I'm not sure if they're here, but there probably are. And some people feel like, oh, this is the next big thing. It's like watching the stock market and seeing what Bitcoin's doing. But if you don't understand it or don't know about it, don't let somebody else convince you that this is the way to go. Like I said, I trace it, I understand it, but I'm still learning every day, and I have zero money in Bitcoin. I would never put money in Bitcoin.
Josh?
It's not always the high-tech ways either. A lot of times the scammers will ask you to put the money in iTunes gift cards, Google gift cards, what have you, scratch off the number and send them the number. A lot of times we see that with, especially the grandparent scams. No jail in the U.S. is going to ask you to pay for bail with iTunes gift cards. So, it's not always the high-tech ways that they're trying to trick you, because with the iTunes gift cards or whatever gift cards it may be, they can be hard, if not impossible, to trace as well. And once that money's gone, there's a pretty good chance you're not getting it back. So don't always trust just because they're being a little more low-tech. In our age of AI and Bitcoin and everything, sometimes the low-tech ways are the ways they use as well.
I like to say what is old is what's new. Relationships, face-to-face. I can't imagine allowing somebody to talk me into taking a portion of my life savings who I've never seen face-to-face and transfer that money, right? There's value to relationships, value to face-to-face. Many times when somebody will come into us and they'll usually go to the teller line and they'll have a check for $3,000. We've trained all of our tellers. We're not trying to be intrusive, but we're going to ask some questions. First, we're going to look at your account to see if that's consistent with your normal deposits. Because when you have a fixed income, single person who only gets their retirement direct deposited and suddenly they come in with a $3,000 check, that's number one flag. And every bank should be trained to ask a few questions. Sometimes people get upset with us because we're asking those questions. But we'll ask the question, where's this check from? Did you sell something? No. Does this involve the internet in any way? Well, yes. Boop, that's flag number 2, right? So then we'll take them off the teller line and we'll ask them to tell their story. And sometimes as they're verbalizing their story, you see the light bulb go off. Oh, damn, I've been scammed. When they have to say their story out loud to somebody else, they realize it. Oh, they got me, right? So the whole idea is slow down, take your time. Don't let that sense of urgency make you make a bad choice. Go talk to some experts. Call the sheriff's department. We will get those phone numbers out. Go to your bank, go to your credit union, and ask questions. And don't feel like, well, I'm already into it this far, I'm just going to keep going. Because we've seen that too, where they don't want to admit that they've been scammed. They feel like maybe they have been, but they're too embarrassed, or they're unwilling, and they still have that glimmer of hope. You heard the lady say she was comfortable being poor if she just was going to have her man that she never met. She's never held hands, right? She's never had dinner with the guy. $2 million she gave up. Loneliness is difficult. Don't let the scammers take advantage of your loneliness. Talk to somebody. Do I have any questions in the crowd?
John, I was going to say too, you hit on it, that we should never be embarrassed if you do get scammed. Because I know, I've been, you know, and you look at the people that are reporting, they're, you know, highly educated, highly successful. But that one lady has over $2 million in her savings. They're rich, they're very well educated, and they got scammed. So, I mean, little somebody like me, yeah, it's, you know, I should not be embarrassed. It could happen to anyone. So never let that, the embarrassment, hold you back from questioning or, like, you know, approaching John or the credit union or any of the resources that are here to validate, you know, whether it's a scam or not that you might be encountering. Always be mindful of it. Does anybody have questions?
I don't have a question, but my son told me that when you're looking at a site online, even if you've been as a trusted site, it's a store you've gone to, look at the font, because there could be like a little bit of difference in the font, and that's not your trusted site.
Try to look for inconsistencies, misspellings. Even if you get something in the mail, a lot of times scammers will make the document look just like it is coming from the official agency, right?
We take down websites every week. We take down websites. They're scam websites. They're made to look like the actual site that you're used to. So that's very good advice. You know, we have even the email. So just roll on that real quick on the email address. Local school district building a huge. You know, I don't know if they in Jamestown they build a field with the lighting and they redo it. These are like $4 or $5 million capital projects. Big school district up in Niagara County, actually. The contractor mobilizes their equipment, so they won the contract, they're on site, they're like, okay, we're ready for the first draw. The first draw is $485,000. The accounts payable person gets an email from conceptconstruction.co, not .com. Hey, we're mobilized, we'd like to get our first draw. Next thing you know, the accounts payable, and they didn't have the right processes in place. You know, it was a rural district, but a good sized one. The woman writes out a check, sends it off, and oh, by the way, we got another email. I'm going to be out of town in Texas, so I'm going to redirect the bank account. So can you send it here? So they did send a check in the mail. They had a construction meeting the next day. Thank goodness this was talked about, and they called us right away. We did something. You guys probably do kill chains, or we do a process where we'll get the SWIFT number on a banking situation, but it's a little more complicated for this situation. But the bottom line is font. You get an email address from a friend saying, hey, we're having a party, do you want to pay for part of the gift or whatever it is, but it's not actually their email address. So look at the whole thing. You know, we were able to actually, so that that bad guy we didn't find, but he was in our database. About 6 months later, I got it. Actually, just happened 2 months ago. I got an email from our office in New Jersey. Same scammer was out there, and that email address was made 2 days after this concept construction won the bid. So 2 days later, this person made up this email address that wasn't real, the website, and they were scamming or getting ready to scam. So it's very possible that these duplications or what look like duplications are.
My question is, what's being done, either in this through you, Tom, or Sheriff, to arrest and prosecute these people, and how difficult is that?
Yeah. He just had the answer. We have to go to China, Libya. So many of these are from out of the country, and I believe in order to even prosecute or to get somebody involved, if we can identify, it has to be a high dollar amount.
Yeah, you know, Pete, that's a Secret Service question, like, well, what's the amount we're gonna go after you? And it's unfortunate, well, I can tell you this, it's fortunate enough recently, the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Western District has been really cautious about community impact. So even if it's, like, we'll go after a counterfeiter that's only maybe $5,000 in, but if they go down, I don't know what your Main Street is, if they go down Main Street and they're handing out $100 bills and scamming people, we had one on Elmwood Avenue in the city of Buffalo. They went, and these are shop owners that maybe only make $200-300 a day, and they got scammed out of a third of their, you know, their daily take. At community impact, and we'll go after those people. If it's an elderly person or it's a group of, you know, elderly people that we have a good process. Now, we may not always be able to arrest somebody or put handcuffs on somebody, but we can take down websites. We can do what's called a red notice, so we'll actually indict the person, and we know their identity, but they're in a different country. Those people, believe it or not, we might have to wait around for 5 or 10 years, but eventually they'll use that money and try to show up in a friendly country or a country that we do business with, the United States.